All right, we're going to roll right into this, and our next presentation. It's my honor to be able to share with you a little bit about what we're doing here. All right, this is a little bit about us. So my wife and I just celebrated our 29th anniversary, um, just last month, and it's been quite an adventure. Um, we are both come from a ranching background. I'm a third generation rancher. My grandparents moved to northeastern Nevada in the 1940s. My father and mother took over the operation from them and continued to build that operation. And we, Selena and I, were blessed to um, continue that legacy. We do have 9 children. They're all represented here in this picture. Our 3 oldest boys are married, and this was a couple of years old. Things multiply fast. We now have 5 grandchildren instead of just the one that's in this picture. So we've got to update that a little bit. Been blessed to work with some wonderful mentors, take classes, invest in my own education. I am big about education and lifelong learning. Attended the Ranching for Profit School, got to know and work with Bud Williams and consider that a tremendous blessing. I've studied leadership. I'm certified with the Savory Institute as an educator. Blessed to be able to write a book, and looking around here, usually have a copy of it in my office, which I do right here. Sorry, it's a little blurry with the background, but it's called Searching for Home, Finding Grace. And it's a novel. It's fictional, but all the stories in there, except for maybe one, were stories that actually happened on the ranch and happened with people that work either for us or with us. Our ranch also has a regenerative certification with the Savory Institute, and we started the Profitable Steward podcast about 2.5 years ago. We do these virtual summits and act as a speaker and trainer on other events. And this is a snapshot of our operation. Interstate 80 runs kind of up here to the north. Salt Lake would be 180 miles to the east. Elko, Nevada would be about 40 miles to the west, and then Reno way west and Las Vegas way south. So we're the northeast corner of Nevada, and 2 separate geographical locations. This is what we call Clover Valley. That's where we most spend the winter. It's a little bit lower elevation, and Secret Pass, or the north end of Ruby Valley, is where we spend the summers. And we operate on about 14,000 deeded acres that we own, and we lease an additional 12,000 acres and a little bit of Forest Service. We don't have, like most Nevada ranchers, BLM right now, although we did have in the past. BLM being Bureau of Land Management leased land, or government land that we lease for livestock grazing. So that's a snapshot about us and our family. And as we mentioned, we just celebrated our 29th anniversary. We both came from large families, and we immediately started our own family. This is us at a lot younger age. We were blessed to have 3 boys right off, and our family consists of 6 boys and 3 girls. And about along this journey, it has been just really amazing to work with not only God's creations, but also our fellow stewards, to be able to work with people that are committed to regeneration, that are committed to bettering themselves and bettering their environment around them. It's been it's been really an amazing journey of faith, combining that with business and striving to perpetuate the legacy that we were blessed to inherit. We're literally reaping where we have not sown. Our situation is a little different than many of you, in that we inherited a ranch. But it still takes stewardship, and it still takes work. It still takes love, and it's definitely has had its trials along the way. And so my question for you, I encourage you to take notes as we're going along here. We're going to follow a framework that I'll that I'll kind of walk through. But this first question is, what are you building? What are you building? And who are you building it for? And go ahead and, write that down, most importantly for you to ponder on. What are you building and who are you building it for? But you might even share those answers in the chat. And I want to tell you a story that changed everything for me. So, when Selena and I met at college, we were both young. I was in my early 20s. She was in her late teens. And we dated. We came home for the summer, and over that summer, we continued to date in court, and we got married. And we knew that we wanted to ranch because that's what we loved and that's what we enjoyed. And so we dove right in, and my parents gave us the opportunity. Well, actually, the way it worked out is we came back to the ranch after we got married. Our intent was to leave that fall to go back to school. Dad asked us, "Hey, would you stay home this fall to help us wean calves and get the fall work done?" And we said, "Sure." And we actually never made it back to school. But we certainly have gotten a tremendous education, and that education has come from largely experience in the School of Hard Knocks. It's also come from classes like we're on right here, from books, from mentors, direct inspiration, revelation from our Creator, and kind of that combination of experience combined with the work that we're doing has led to us realizing that, hey, we have a mission to fulfill, and it's an honor to be able to fulfill that. So after coming back to the ranch before too long, my parents left to serve missions, and we found ourselves suddenly in charge with a multi-million-dollar ranching operation with employees twice our age, and we were carrying the weight of decisions that I had never been trained to make. Although I'd been trained in all the tactical aspects of ranching, to be honest, I'd never written a ranch check until my dad had already left and was in a different country. So the business side of it was definitely a baptism of fire, and it was a very steep and very expensive learning curve. I mean, I knew all the tactical things. I could work outside, irrigate, move cows, fix fence. But again, the business I didn't have this class back then. In 2003, I attended the Ranching for Profit school and joined the Executive Link, and hoping that it would give me the tools that I needed. And that first meeting, the Executive Link meeting, we actually missed that meeting because that week Selena and I were home prior to that meeting, and we were helping a neighbor move. We got them moved into their new home, and we're getting ready to leave. Selena went into the master bedroom to retrieve our then third son, who was just an infant, just a few months old. And she came out of the bedroom crying and holding a lifeless, limp, and blue-faced little boy. I grabbed this little boy and laid him on the couch and called for the other men in the that were there to help me offer this young man, this boy, a blessing and a prayer over him. And in the name of Jesus Christ, I commanded him to live. One of the women took this little baby and began to administer CPR. Another man ran out and called 911. I prayed. Sorry, you guys. Cried a lot yesterday as I practiced this and thought that kind of those tears were out. And I prayed and Selena wept. He did start breathing again. The ambulance came and Selena rode in the back. And as I jumped into the front seat, I looked over to see our two boys, ages 2 and 4. being cared for and and attended to by dear friends. And they said, "We got it, you go." And we did. Helicopter was dispatched and met us partway to the hospital, about a 50 miles from where we were. And we pulled off on one of the exits there and waited for the helicopter to come. Shortly did, landed, and as they pulled this little boy out from the back of the ambulance, I hadn't seen him, of course, because I was in the front. And as I looked at him, I realized he's breathing, but he's not okay. And they told us we could not go with him in the helicopter. There wasn't room for either one of us. And so as they were strapping him in, I remember taking Selena by the hand, and we went and we knelt in the middle of the county road and did the only thing that we could do, and that was to pray. And we prayed earnestly and sincerely. We knew that it was out of our hands at that point. There was nothing that we could do, that it was in God's hands completely. And we prayed for angels to attend to that little boy and those who cared for him. And we knew that it was out of our hands. And as the helicopter took off, we jumped in a patrol car and sped to the hospital. And I continued to pray in the back of that patrol car and promised God that I would serve him, that I would do anything, that I would give my life if he would spare the life of this little boy. At that point, we focused in on what truly mattered, and everything else faded. Those things that morning had preoccupied my thoughts no longer were of importance. I was able to shut those things out and focus fully and intently with faith on what truly mattered at that moment. I even told God, take the ranch, take anything, take everything, but please spare our son. When we got to the hospital and we saw Keaton, he was stabilized, but again, something was clearly wrong. He had asphyxiated, and we did not know how long he'd gone without oxygen or the ramifications of that. He'd had at least one seizure in transportation to the hospital. His cries were distant and hollow, and although his body was showing signs of life, his demeanor seemed lifeless. We were told that he needed to be transported to Primary Children's Hospital in Salt Lake. And so an airplane had already been called. It was on its way. And before that set of paramedics took him and Selena, I again laid my hands upon his head and offered a prayer and promised that he would was promised through God that he would have a full and complete recovery. I kissed Selena goodbye and watched the ambulance pull away. My mom, who happened to be in town, had met us, and she drove me to Wells, where I met Selena's parents and jumped in with them, and we drove through the night to Salt Lake. Few things have meant more to me than being able to see my son and Selena again. And when I saw him there in the hospital in Salt Lake, and heard his cry. Not a distant hollow cry anymore, but a real cry. And I saw him respond to us and turn his head and saw that he not only we saw him, but he saw us. He responded to our voices and was soon able to nurse. And very easily could have gone different directions, and things hung in the balance. And the little boy that arrived at Salt Lake did not match the one that left Elko. And though we were held in the hospital for days and questioned by Child Protective Services and put under literally a microscope and testing, there was peace in our hearts that passed all understanding, because like we've got a boy that's healthy and alive. You know, nothing else really mattered. And eventually the doctors cleared us. There was no abuse, no neglect, only a miracle that we had witnessed, and many others did as well. We brought Keaton home. Our house for days and even weeks was filled with a tangible spirit and peace that was felt by others the moment that they walked through the door. And although I believe in eternal families, I'm eternally grateful that Keaton was able to fulfill the mission, his earthly mission. And today he's married and they have a baby girl. And that was a turning point for me, for us, and for our business, in that it taught me in a way that perhaps no other experience could have what was truly important. And I carry that memory of that miracle in all that I do. And that's when I began to really learn that life is about stewardship. The land, the cattle, the business, our children, none of it truly belongs to us. It's really on loan from God. And now through our company, through Ag Steward, through the ranch, hopefully through our family, through our interaction with our fellow being, we strive to exemplify stewardship, legacy, what it means to build a kingdom business. And our goal is to help others to shorten that learning curve, to be able to find clarity, and to build businesses that are not only profitable, but fulfill a higher and a God-given calling. And so for the framework for that presentation, to set the stage for that, each of us has a moment, each of us has a time when we have been refined and defined, when we've been able to decide to cut off those things that no longer matter to us and to focus on what truly matters. We need to remember that experience, and perhaps that's why the tears come, you know, and the emotion is high as I share that experience, is because it was something that I would never wish upon anyone. But at the same time, I would never want to take that away from anyone. And so if each of us can learn from my experience, learn from our experiences, learn from the experiences of others, that we need to decide what it means to us to be a good steward. Now I can breathe again. Thanks everybody for letting me share that story. It is really meaningful to me, and as I've only shared it probably one other time in a public setting. in fact, held it very sacred just because I didn't want people to scoff or to justify away what we knew as a miracle. But, it's something that left an impact upon us and upon our lives and upon the lives of our little community here. So when you think about building we're going to call it a kingdom business. When you think about building a business that honors God, that serves our fellow man, that provides profit back to the ranch business owners, ranch, farm, whatever your business is, and that is fun and that is fulfilling, there's 3 pillars that we're going to focus on today in this short time that we have together. And the first one is that of kingdom. So if you imagine a stool with the 3-legged stool, it needs at least 3 legs to be somewhat stable, and that first leg, I think, is kingdom. So it's more than just building a business. If you're taking notes, that's point number 1. Is pillar number 1 is a kingdom-based business or a kingdom. Seek, biblically, it says seek first for the kingdom of God. And what does that actually mean? I think in a lot of instances, it's just going back to that story of being able to say no to the things that aren't important right now. Those things that we need to tune out and that are still there, but so that we can hone in and laser in on what God really wants for us. There's a lot of great business principles out there. I read business books. I have them on my shelves. I had them on my Audible account. We live in a world where we have AI, and we talked about that. Thank you, Joni, for that. And I actually use AI. I used AI in helping to craft this presentation and some of my social media posts, but it does not replace what our mentors, Larry and Stacy Wallace, call KI, which is kingdom intelligence. And so we need to look at all the principles and run it through the lens of like, okay, is this, not only is this kingdom based, is this based on true and correct principles that are in alignment with God, but are they for us, and are they for us at this time? There's really not, I believe, a divide between the spiritual or the sacred and the secular. Like I think all things are spiritual to God. Business can be spiritual. The way we manage cattle can be spiritual. The way we maintain our vehicles can be. Some of the most seemingly mundane things, if we do it with the right spirit, to be able to bring glory to God, I believe that is a spiritual component. And I'm building a kingdom-based business. Really, our business is just a reflection of who we are. It's kind of our pulpit, or it's our way to be able to magnify to the world who we are inside and that greater calling that we have. So if the ranch or your farm is your pulpit, your family is your first ministry. It's your opportunity to be able to take care of them first, then take care of your business. Then as you do that, and those priorities are in alignment, then you can share that with the world. So the challenge for each of you and the question to ask, what would it take for you to make your business truly a kingdom-based business, not just a for-profit, impactful, regenerative, well-stewarded business, but something that really honors God and serves our fellow man? So take a minute and just write those thoughts down. Like what would that look like for you and for your business? And if you guys aren't in business, let's actually put in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you have a business right now, and 2 if you are planning to start a business, 3 if you're an employee and that's your focus, is just being a good employee. There's no wrong answer. So 1 if you are in business, 2 if you're planning on starting one, and 3, or 2 and 3 if you're an employee right now and really focused on that. So that'll kind of help us to know. Yeah, and as we do that, I'm going to pull back up my notes here. And so in that experience with our infant boy, when we knelt there on the side of the road and kind of things focused in, I said that nothing else mattered. At that time, there was nothing else that mattered. Sure, we had 2 boys at home that mattered. We had a business that mattered. We had relationships with other families. And so a lot of times in business, we talk about keeping things in balance. And that sometimes we think that means that we're going to give equal weight or equal time to different responsibilities that we have. When I don't know that it necessarily works that way. Like at that point, we spent several days in the hospital, and I did have people back at the ranch that were taking care of things. But my complete focus was on this task at hand. And so I think that's the principle, is that where we are, we focus and we put forth our effort and our energy. And through that, then our effort gets magnified, not diluted, right? Because I think that's a kind of a zero sum type mentality, that like if I spend more time here, I'm going to have less time to spend here. When in fact, if we focus here, maybe in our business, like you guys are doing here at this summit today, then that actually is going to open up more time so you can be more present with your family, when you can be more attentive to the other needs and responsibilities that you have in your life. Okay. So principle number 2. So number 1, remember, is the kingdom, putting the kingdom of God first, building a kingdom-based business, knowing that that is where our priority should be. Principle number 2 is on stewardship. Again, everything that we talk about here at Ag Stewardess revolves around stewardship. We're really beyond being an owner. We're a steward. We don't own anything. And I'm a big proponent of property rights and knowing that, hey, we defend the right to be able to own property, but in reality, it's all God's, right? Not to diminish the fact of property ownership, but stewardship trumps ownership. We can be good stewards and not own something, and we can own something and not be good stewards of it. I think it's okay to do both. In the parable of the talents, the master was not so concerned about how much he had given the different stewards. It was what they had done with that. To the ones who returned and multiplied, they were blessed. To the one who out of fear went and hid, then he was cursed and it was taken from him what he'd been given. And a quote that I really like is, the way that we care for our earthly stewardships reflect our spiritual commitment. Because ultimately, stewardship is caring for something that belongs to God, for which we are entrusted, and over which we will be accountable one day back to him. That's how I view stewardship. It's more than just ownership. It's more than just a responsibility. It's an opportunity for us to be able to learn and actually to become co-creators with the Creator. And what a greater way, there's no greater way or person that we can learn from than directly from He who created all things. And so think about, and on this this second pillar of stewardship, if you're taking notes, you can write down, and you don't need to necessarily do it right now, but what are the things over which you have stewardship? And then maybe rate that, not in a B rating way, meaning you're going to beat yourself up, but just say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how am I doing here? A 10 being I'm doing really well, a 1 being, hey, there's some room for improvement. Pick the one that's going to give you the most leverage. Focus on it. Again, not with the focus does not equal forget. It means that we can see those things, but are in our peripheral vision, but we're going to focus on this. And I promise you that it is a principle that how we do some things is how we do everything. So the more that intently we focus on one area, everything else will improve. A rising tide raises all ships. And so that's a principle there. What are you a steward over? How are you doing in those stewardships? Which one of those needs your focus and attention right now? Tomorrow it may change, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay. That's to be expected. But right now, today, which one needs your attention? What is your next step? And then commit to take action on that step. Okay, so the third leg in this stool would be legacy. And what do we mean by legacy? It's not so much about what we leave behind. Legacy is about what we set in motion. Because really there is no end. Matt said it well, like we look 7 generations into the future when we're making our decisions. And we ask ourselves, if we go down this path with our business, what effect is this going to have on our great-great-great-great-grandchildren? What are they going to look back and say, man, I'm glad that, we'll just pick Daryl because he's still in front of my screen here. I'm glad that Daryl stewarded this ranch or this farm or this land in such a way. What are they going to be remembered for? Legacy, there's a couple scriptures, Proverbs and Psalms, about legacy. Proverbs 13:22 and Psalms 145:4. If you guys want to look that up. Legacy is actually our values plus our vision plus our team plus the stewardship that we give. It's kind of a culmination of all these things. And the interesting thing is that, last year we entitled the 4 summits that we did the Regenerative Legacy Summit. And we put a lot of emphasis on that. And not that that was wrong by any means. But what I find interesting is legacy is the byproduct of the way that we live our lives every day. Like we don't, I think, necessarily set out and focus on the legacy piece. We focus on stewardship. We focus on doing the best that we can in every area of life. And then the legacy is what is left behind. It's the tracks that are left behind. So again, the question for each of us to ponder on and to answer, and to put in your notes, what are you passing on? What is your legacy going to be? And to ask yourself, are you building something that will outlive you? Okay, hopefully, again, you're welcome to share those in the chat. What is your legacy? What is it that you want to be remembered for? When we work with our call them students or clients at Ag Steward, one of the first steps that we do is to create a vision that kind of sets the course and a target to aim for and all that we do within generally the year that we work together in our coaching programs. But we'll ask that question in 3 years. What do you want your business, your personal life, your marriage, your family to look like? And then from there, we'll stretch that out even further. At the end of your life, what do you want to have said about you? And stretch that out even further. What do you want your grandkids to say about you when you're not around? That's what legacy is all about. Okay, so those are the 3 principles. So we have first, remember, building a kingdom business, or the first leg of the stool is kingdom, second, stewardship, and third is legacy. So now, if you're ready to truly stop just surviving and start stewarding, well, maybe let me open it up here to Selena for a minute. Do you have any thoughts on those three principles and how we're applying those in our lives, Lena. Kingdom, legacy, and stewardship.
Okay. Putting me on the spot here, but
Thanks.
yes,
I'm
mostly
good at
what's
doing
been
that.
and heart lately is just like Jared mentioned in the story that I shared with our family, and the peace that passeth all understanding, and how we can have that in the most tumultuous times of our lives, and even in the face of uncertainty and doubt, and like seeing that there are seemingly feeling like there's no answers or possibilities or solutions, and just keep running up against obstacles and walls. And it's really easy to just feel hopeless and helpless, powerless. And for me, it's been a huge weight off of my shoulders and my heart to put those things into God's hands. And so a big part of stewardship is recognizing that the one who is really in control, and giving him that way, and that faith. And I really like the comments here, that we do have to take action. We have to take the actions that we're directed to, but we don't have to control what happens with those actions. We don't have to control what's going to happen next, or even the actions that we're directed to take. We don't try to those things to happen. We can just do that next step, and we have no idea what chain of events that's going to set in, but God does, and that's why He's able to give us those next steps, and then He can continue to orchestrate it for our behalf and on our behalf. And that is why we can have that peace. And I was sharing with my daughter this morning, she's very frustrated, living in St. George and trying to figure out how to have multiple jobs and do the things she wants to do and cover her expenses and just all this new experiences of adulting. And it's really easy. It's just like, I don't know what to do. And everybody says this, and they're all telling me different things. And I shared that same message, that if the more that we can choose peace and faith and just find that neutrality and putting it in God's hands while taking action, the more we're going to be in alignment with the things that God has put on our heart to do, and the success and the results that He wants us to have. So as we're in alignment with the frequency, the energies will line up and match, and those things come into our life faster. Because when we are worrying and we're stressed and we're upset and frustrated, we're not in the right frame of mind to receive the direction we need, nor are we able to align with the energies of the things that God wants to bless us with. So we can't force them into our lives because we're repelling them. So we choose that peace and that faith, and that allows that space of being able to be in alignment, and quickly those things can come into our life on God's time, of course. But as we're learning all those things along the way, and gratitude is probably my biggest number one way to find that peace. Is gratitude in all things, as we're told often in the scriptures, to be thankful in all things, because that is what puts us in alignment the fastest. And God knows that we can say, okay, I have faith, but we're still, wringing our hands. But if we're like, I am thankful for what I'm learning in this moment of having to have patience, or not knowing what's going to happen next, but still choosing to feel peace. I'm thankful for what that is teaching me. That feeling of gratitude, it is the biggest shift, the fastest shift that we can make energetically. So those are my thoughts, I guess.
I love it. Thank you for letting me put you on the spot. So can we just have a little bit of a discussion here, and then we're gonna share an opportunity to continue to work with Ag Steward and what we do in furthering your mission. But Selena, how have you found, such as when we go through a traumatic experience? I think back to that experience with Keaton, and that morning started out just like an ordinary day. I remember working in the shop, welding on a trailer, and you came and you said, "Hey, so-and-so needs help moving. And so we just jumped in and went. We had no idea when we left our ranch that things were going to turn out the way they were going to be. We didn't know that we were not going to come back for days. Of course, we didn't pack clothes. Um, we, I don't always respond that way in the moment of a crisis. A lot of times I'll be in my head. I'll be fearful. I'll act out of scarcity thinking. I certainly am not in tune with the spirit. I'm in fight or flight mode. I'm so grateful for a lot of things about that day, but mostly that I was able to respond instead of react, and that we were able to be in a place where we could, we could, as crazy as it sounds, looking back, the overwhelming feeling of that experience was peace. So how do we foster that in our daily lives, Selena?
Well, for me, it's taking time to commune. Go for a walk in the mornings, and I try to be intentional with my thoughts. I'm not always successful, but it's getting better. And just use that time for prayer. And I find that mostly that prayer is not oh, please bless or help me. It's thank you for this beautiful morning. Thank you that you are orchestrating things to come together for us. So being thankful for what I am seeing happening, and then being thankful for what I know is happening that I cannot see, because I'm trusting that those things are happening. And then I just try to open my heart and mind to hear what I can do that day to help others, or to take an action step that God would have me take. So communion, prayer, meditation, all of those things are important each day. And then, putting first things first, the Stephen Covey, it's just huge, our relationships. Jared's always been a really big proponent of efficiency. And so something doesn't make sense, and it's like, well, that's really not a very effective way to do that. And he can come in, and I can spend a whole day making applesauce, and he can show me how to do it 50% faster in an hour, stuff like that. So he's good at that. But a lot of times we get so bogged down and head down and working harder and trying to make things all efficient that we realize that we forget that the most efficient way we can do things is to build relationships. It doesn't matter how hard we work or what we do, we will never be able to do what having strong relationships can do, especially as man and wife, that relationship, because that's a creator relationship. If we want to create things, we want to build things, then that relationship needs to be nurtured, because that's the power of creation. And so that's my other answer.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. So all of these things tie together, and you might think, well, hey, I signed up for a soil health class, a regenerative class, stewardship class. And what are we talking about? This whole kingdom piece and the spiritual piece, and because everything is connected. And I believe that as we get things right in our relationships, specifically our relationship with God and with Jesus Christ, then everything else falls into alignment. And so that's why I started with kingdom. If that's not your language, translate it into whatever language fits you. But it is what Selena said. It's putting first things first, getting our priorities right. And all of us need to do that. And we need to check in and weigh ourselves against that. How is that working? So if something today has stirred you, if you felt like, maybe this isn't exactly what I wanted, but this is what I needed. I didn't really know what this free class was all about, but man, I'm glad that I showed up here today. Maybe you just felt or had the thought, maybe I'm called for more. Maybe at this time in history, at this time in my life, this time for me, there needs to be a complete pivot or just a slight pivot. then we want to invite you to the next step with working with Ag Steward, and that is the Profitable Steward 2-day workshop. Selena, do you have that link you could share? You guys can pull it up. This is not just another webinar. It's really a hands-on, roll up your sleeves, dive deep into building your own farming or ranching business. This is for people that are committed to doing it at scale, replacing your off-farm income, or scaling the current business that you now have, and doing so in a way that honors God and produces real fruit, which is beyond just black at the bottom of your profit and loss at the end of the year, right? Being profitable, it's more than that. So we really help you to go from surviving to actually stewarding with purpose and managing chaos, from managing chaos to leading with clarity and confidence and peace, stepping away from putting out fires to actually building the vision for you, for your business. So what you'll walk away with is a crystal clear vision of what your business is about, which incorporates your family as well. Practical financial tools to help create profit with a purpose. A roadmap to be able to simplify and to get to your vision and to multiply your impact. And a community who believes in you and steward it in your own stewardship, calling or cause, and the ability to be able to scale that. So it's really like, this is where the fog lifts and where you're able to again see that vision. You know, you're able to also tune out those things that are just white noise that you need to say, hey, not right now. It's where husbands and wives get on the same page, where generations are able to again enter back into those communications and be on the same page. And it's where people realize I was made for more than just the hard work, and doggone it, I'm more than just being in debt. I know if you're like me, you might be thinking, well, man, another 2 days, I barely had time for this. How am I going to set aside another 2 days? I get it. Like, we have to put first things first. We have to tune out what's not important. Sometimes we have to delegate. And really, the bottom line is nothing changes until you change something. We're the common denominator, right? We've got to change. We've got to go first. So if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always gotten. So let me ask you, if this workshop is the moment where things will turn for you, is it worth it? And what if it's not just about your business, but about your marriage, about your legacy, about your peace of mind, your own peace in your heart? Would that make it worth it? So if this resonates with you, then take action. Take action. Don't wait. Don't say, well, I'll do that tomorrow at the end of the summit. Right now. We've got 6 minutes before the next presenter jumps on. Go ahead. It's simple. Jump on the page. If I'll share that with you right now, just so you can see what it looks like on the backside. Were you able to share that in the chat, Selena? This is what it looks like. Yeah. It's in 14 days, so exactly 2 weeks, two more creative periods until the next workshop. It gives you the details that I've already walked through, and I'm going to be the host. We'll have strategic co-hosts to be able to work. There's some FAQs at the bottom of it. Bottom line is, click the link, register, sign up, show up. The normal price is $500. We've offered the $147 for those that are live and in attendance here at the summit today, because we don't want cost to be a barrier. And also, I want to recognize that 2 days of time is a commitment. Yeah, your time is valuable, and we want to honor that. So if you feel called, like this is your next step, again, invite you to do that. We've got time for 1 or 2 questions. If you go ahead and raise your virtual hand if you have a question about what we've talked about so far, specifically the 3 pillars of stewardship, legacy, and kingdom, you can raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Selena, if there's anything in the chat that you want to offer as a question, you're able to monitor that where I'm presenting. So yeah, if anybody had a question, just raise your virtual hand. That's the best way to be able to unmute you because everybody's force muted, and we can bring you to the front. Promise not to embarrass you, but would love to hear if you do have a question about what we've presented so far today.
There's some, just seeing what their desires are for their families, and they may not have a lot of land, but like, who is this for, like, as far as landowners size?
Yeah. So we're really gearing towards people that are working at scale. So with the ability to be able to replace your off-farm income and generate a six-figure income. So 6 figures is not very much in today's economy. That's, $100,000 plus. Really, we need to work on getting you above that. But that is our focus, is that, hey, it's not for hobby farmers. Certainly you can, if you're a homesteader hobby farmer, you can jump in and listen, and that's fine. But the language and the frameworks that we're going to be teaching, they're for people that are going to be doing it at scale or already are in business and looking at scaling up from there. So let's see. I think we can ask you to unmute. Noreen, you should be able to unmute yourself now if you'd like to.
But that being said, we also know that whatever size you are, even if you don't have an operation right now, that there's a lot of things that are shared that are going to help you to build what you want, relationships and legacy, and just planning that way, and being able to hear what other operations are doing. So we're not excluding anybody, but it just may not be geared towards where you're at, but there's always things to learn. And we try to have a very holistic approach when it comes to building the Steward.
Yeah, go ahead, Noreen, if you think you're unmuted.
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for everything. And I apologize if my connection is weak. For some reason, I'm at my daughter's house. But I have been honestly putting this together in my mind for 25 years, and have only owned the family farm now for, this is year 3. I have 70 acres, and it was my grandparents' homestead. And I'm thinking from a scalability, it's going to have to be multidimensional, right? It's going to have to be everything from forest food to victory garden, orchard. But I've already spent the last 2 years doing soil and water regeneration.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very open if people don't have land. I have RV hookups I have put in. If people want to come and experiment or see what's going on, they're welcome. But I think from a scalable part is I'm still working full time. So I'm very curious on what should I do, what should I try to invest in, but turn a profit on. So I do know it depends on our seasons and our location and everything else, but
Sure. Yeah.
it's also just wanted to mention is if people do own farms, I was contacted by Roots So Deep. It's a screening series, a movie, and they're actually going to be sending everything. We're actually doing the screening at the farm, and everyone is invited. So if people are in upstate New York or want to come, I think it's a good launch pad for us.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Thank you, Noreen. That's great. That's the question, right? Okay, how many acres do I need to be able to be full-time farming, ranching? And the answer is, like everything, it depends, right?
Right.
But my answer for you, and if you want, we can continue the conversation in the chat. My answer for you is, how big is your vision? And largely that vision is going to determine, okay, do we qualify for this class? For one, is that the right next step? I think in your heart, if it is or not. But then also, again, if you go back to the principle that we don't own anything, we're stewards over everything, exactly. Then ownership doesn't matter so much, right? We can say, okay, if this is the God vision, if this is the God-sized vision, the vision that he's put on my heart, and if he can feed thousands with 2 loaves and a few fish, or 5 loaves and 2 fish, right? What can you do with my 70 acres and the righteous desires of my heart and my vision?
Exactly.
So I'll leave you with that. And that's kind of for everybody. Noreen, we're going to jump into our next speaker, but I appreciate that. That is,
Thank you.
that is great. Thank you for being brave to raise your hand and ask the question.
Of course.